ar y 19 o Fai yn y Rhuthun, ond hefyd ar trefniant Zoom i'r rhan helaeth o'r cynghorwyr. Mae'n ddiwrnod pwysig iawn heddiw, fel ydych chi gyd yn siŵr bod ni'n newid drosodd. Mae'r gadeiryddiaeth yn mynd drosodd i aelod newydd. Ond y gyntaf, na i ddarllen datganiad, na i geisio i gyfieithio gorau medrau. Fel ydych chi'n gwybod, mae'n adeg rhyfedd iawn. Yr Covid-19 yn dal i reoli braidd bod y rhan helaeth ond ni wedi cael brechiad. Mae cynghorydd Alan James a Christine Marston hefo fi yn y siambar, a mi fydda'n wrtha yn cymryd drosodd nes ymlaen. Mae Henwan wedi rhoi ymlaen i fynd i'r gadeiryddiaeth ac is-gadeiryddiaeth. Yn anfffortunus, ac yn drist iawn hefyd, da ni methu gwadd chwi oll yma heddiw fel fasa'r arferiad. Mae Nesta fy mhriod a mae priod Alan hefyd a unrhyw gyfeillion yn methu dod i mewn atan ni fel sy'n arferol. Felly mi fydd y trefniadau pyn bach yn chwythig i beth sy'n arfer cael ei wneud. Ond da ni'n gobeithio allwn ni gadw urddas y swydd heb i honno fynd ar goll. Felly,
mynd at ymddiheuriadau rwan.
Sorry?
Ymddiheuriadau.
Ymddiheuriadau. A'i ymlaen rwan i'r rhaglen ymddiheuriadau.
Diolch Cadeirydd. Mae gen i ymddiheuriadau gan y cynghorwyr Geraint Lloyd Williams a Richard Mainon.
Os yna rhywun arall yn gwybod am unrhyw ymddiheuriad o'i haelodau? Mae'n ymddangos nad oes. Felly, datgan diddordeb, gwrth dda, Gary?
Members will be aware of the requirement under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interests in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interest should be declared now, or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in today's business. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it's a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the chamber for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members of the personal interest only may take part in the debate and any vote. If a personal or personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr, Gary. Gai ofyn hefyd i beidio amharu ar y gweithgareddau. Newch yn ein siŵr bod chi wedi diffodd y meic sydd ar y peiriant. Diolch yn fawr. Felly, gai roi gair o ddiolch wan. Anteisio ar y cyfle hwn i ddiolch i chi fel aelodau Cyngor Sir Ddinbych am ymddiried yno a rhoi cyfle i mi eich gwasanaethu am 2 flynedd, 2019 i 2020 ac 2020 i 2021. A oedd yn unigryw oherwydd y coronavirus Covid-19. Ers 2020, diolchaf i chwi am eich amynedd a chydweithrediad clodwiw, a mae'r anrhydedd o'ch cynrychioli yn 2019 i 2020 dros Ogledd Cymru o Fôn i Wrecsam, gan chwifio baner y sir ym mhob amgylchiad. Gwerthfawrogaf y cyfle unigryw hwn yn fawr iawn a mae'r chyfraf hi yn fraint gweithio ac anrhydedd i gael eich cynrychioli fel cadeirydd y sir, ar 3 achlysur dros y 5 mlynedd ar 20 sydd wedi mynd heibio. Diolch i Nesta fy mhriod a'r teulu am eu cefnogaeth parod, a diolch i Eleri Wolford a'r diweddar sŵ license, Sharon Walker ac eraill, a hefyd Steve Price, Rodri Thomas yma, ac wrth reswm Gary Williams sydd wrth y lliw i'n cynorthwyo bob amser, a diolch yn fawr. A'r holl staff cefnogol hefyd, gan beidio anghofio y cyfieithwyr sydd wedi bod wrthi, a diolch yn fawr, iddynt nhw i gyd yn y pwyllgorau ac ym mhob gweithgaredd arall ydyn ni'n gael fel sir. Diolch am y cymorth a chyfarwyddyd. Yn ystod y 3 blynedd, fel is-gadeirydd i gadeirydd hyderaf yn fawr fy mod wedi gallu hybu delwedd y sir a cadw ein henw da yn ddilychwyn. Diolch i'r is-gadeirydd, y cynghorydd Alan James, am ei gymorth a llenwi mewn pan na allwn fod yn bresennol. Dymuna fyddo bob rhwyddianeb a iechyd wrth iddo esgyn i'r gadair fel fy olynydd. Diolchaf i'r parchedig Dr Rhodri Glyn yn ei wasanaeth i mi ac i'r parchedig Aneurin Owen heddiw bore. Diolch hefyd i'r cynghorydd Arwer Roberts, Emrys Wyn ac eraill am draddodi'r weddi ar fy nghais i. Nawr cyflwyno siec yn gyntaf i Carol Pritchard Jones ar ran apel cancer Gogledd Cymru. Ond yn gyntaf cyn cyflwyno, mae gan ei lythyr gan Carol gan bod ti'n methu bod efo ni. Ac yn Saesneg mae yn ei ddarllen yn union fel y gymau. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to extend our sincere thanks to you and your fellow councillors for so kindly donating such a generous amount to the North Wales Cancer Appeal. We are most grateful. All monies donated to the charity will directly benefit the patients who are being treated at the North Wales Cancer Treatment Centre at Ysbyty Glan-Clwyd. We, as a committee, manage our own budget. We have direct contact with clinical staff throughout the various departments of the treatment centre, and we are able to channel our financial support directly where it is most needed. The North Wales Cancer Appeal is a voluntary-run charity that raises much-needed funding to purchase vital equipment for use in North Wales Cancer Treatment Centre, Ysbyty Glan-Clwyd. The charity was formerly known as the Ron and Margaret Smith Appeal, which has been fundraising since the mid-1980s. It was rebranded in 2016 and is now known as the North Wales Cancer Appeal. Through the endeavours of hard-working and dedicated team of volunteers, the charity has raised over 3 million for the treatment centre. We work with both the clinical and management staff at the centre together with identify the needs for funding, for removal or replacement of vital equipment, research and education, and any items needed necessary for the patient's ongoing treatment and care. The charity has the discretion to choose where the funds are spent, and this targeted approach ensures the appeal is relevant to the needs of the patient. We continue to raise funds and are pleased to receive donations and proposals for future fundraising events. For further information, please visit our website, www.walescancerappeal.co.uk. A dyma ni siec i gyflwyno iddi. Mae adran ni yn anfon y siec ymlaen 500 o bunnau, sydd braidd yn isel, a dwi'n ymddiheuro am hynny, oherwydd gawson ni'n gorffen yr apel am arian y tro yma, dros y 2 flynedd. Felly mae pyn bach yn isel i beth ni'n arfer i hel. Ond diolch yn fawr i bawb fod ddio mor garedig. Ga i wan droi i'r ail. Ben gai hyd iddo. Dyma ni. Yr ail apel oedd dros Prostrate Cymru, a dwi'n gofyn i Tina Tew i ddeud y gair neu ddau. Sgwelwch yn dda, Tina.
Firstly, I apologise that I'm not a Welsh speaker. We do have Welsh speakers within our organisation, but I wanted to join you as Chief Exec personally to thank you for the very kind donation that you made to us. Very similar to your previous charity. We are totally Welsh based. We're an independent charity. We don't get any grants nationally, and we're not part of Prostate Cancer UK. So all the funds raised in Wales stays in Wales and very much helps the men in Wales. We work with hospitals right across Wales in terms of offering donations for vital equipment, research. We work with the Welsh Cancer Research Centre, providing research grants to help them, if you like, further research. It may not be the big millions of pounds that they may need, but it certainly gets them on the road to apply to other organisations or to the health boards themselves for further donations and support. Like many charities, we've suffered over the COVID year. Generally, our funds are raised equally, 50% what we raise ourselves and 50% from external benefactors like yourselves. But obviously people couldn't fundraise for us, but you know, we still had their support. We ran virtual events, so we were very pleased with that. So as I say, personally, I wanted to say a big huge thank you to you for choosing us. We do have a trustee based in North Wales. We've put a lot of our services online. We have a nurse hotline which is available to patients who are concerned, or family members who have concerns, or people who are just going through difficult times themselves. So as I say, we try to adapt to the scenario of COVID and put our sort of presentations. A big part of what we do is raising awareness, and I do believe that my colleague has offered the online services or bespoke webinars to yourselves. We've worked with other councils to promote the services we have and to spread the message. I'm very conscious you must have a very big agenda, so I do appreciate you allowing me to come on here to say a personal thank you. So as I say, thank you ever so much, and keep up the good work. I know you help so many other charities. Thank you very much. Bore da.
Diolch yn fawr, Tina. Thank you very much for that, and it's very much appreciated you thanking us. You do a marvellous job in Glenclwyd and all over the country, so diolch yn fawr iawn. Dyma fo, 500 i chi I ddangos. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you very much. I will leave the meeting now. Thank you for allowing me to attend and leave you to your council business. Thank you very much.
Croeso, Tina. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch.
Dyna ni gyfeillion. Diolch yn fawr am hynny. Ni'n siŵr bod fi'n cael y rhaglen yn iawn wan. Gwaith nesaf sydd dwi'n gwahodd chi I enwi cadeirydd am y flwyddyn 21-22. Gai gynigydd, os gwelwch yn dda? Rhaid chi agor y meic, mae'n siŵr. Gynigydd?
Mae gynnig bod nhw'n gywir, cadeirydd.
Iawn, you're on mute.
Diolch yn fawr. So rhywun arall yn eilio? Pwy sydd... Mae yn trio, yndi. Unmute, Joan.
Chair, am I unmuted?
That's it, you okay?
Thank goodness. Council, I would like to nominate, obviously, Alan to be our next chair of the county. Alan was first elected. I'll just give you a little bit of information about Alan, which might interest you very much. Alan was first elected to the Rhyl Town Council in 2012 to serve as in the West End of Rhyl. He became an active member of the Rhyl Town Council and served on many committees. He stood in the by-election for the County Council and was selected and elected in 2012 to represent Rhyl. Alan has played parts in his
Sorry, John, if you just put your photograph off, it'll come over better. Diolch yn fawr.
Oh God, yes, okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking to get my camera off. I can't find the silly camera now. Sorry about that.
All right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, whoever did that. I will. I'll go back to Alan. Has played a huge role as a county councillor, and he's played that role with enthusiasm and has served on many committees. He's chaired Democratic Services and is the Vice Chair of Planning. He also serves on many other committees in Denbighshire. Alan was a social worker before he became a councillor and qualified in 1984 and worked for the Clwyd County Council. And he moved to Denbighshire County Council in the reorganisation. In 1991, he took on his first managerial post. His first post before he retired, he managed Denbighshire Community Mental Health Services as an operational divisional manager in the Adult Mental Health Trust. He helped train many social workers and students to qualify in taking a mental health qualification. Alan has and still is quite an athlete also, taking part in a mammoth fundraising event. He cycled from London to Paris, some 500 miles over 4 days to raise money for the Macmillan Cancer Support. Alan still remains an active, very active in raising funds for this charity. He works well with the councillors and with the officers and has got many skills to offer us, and I'm sure he will be a good chair representing our council. He would give a pledge to work as best he can for the people of Denbighshire, keen for the county to develop and look forward to becoming, and for him to becoming very much a part of it. I'm happy to move Councillor Alan James to take the chair of Denbighshire County Council for the municipal year 2021 to 22. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. That was first class, and thank you, Joan, for that. Diolch yn fawr iawn. And llongyfarchiadau, os yna unrhyw un arall yn cael ei enwi, os rwy'n am gynnig? O, os yna Emrys Wyn, y cynghorydd Emrys Wyn ar eilio. Diolch yn fawr, Gary. Os yna ddim neb arall, felly mae'n bresau gynnau pleidleisio.
Na, jyst ofyn os yna unrhyw un yn erbyn.
Ie, os yna rhywun yn erbyn. Nag oes, felly llongyfarchiadau, Alan, ar eich enwi a'ch gadeirydd y sir. Felly na i gymryd hon i ffwrdd. Mae pyn bach yn fwy anodd tro yma.
It's on. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks very much. I'll stay. We'll stay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Clutter. I will in later times adjust it a little bit better. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Yeah, it's on. Yep. Everybody hear me? Okay. Yeah. Thanks very much. Okay. Let me get my head together now. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Merig for all the hard work he's done over the last 2 years. He's a very hard act to follow, and I hope I'm going to be as successful and as active as he has been. It has been a very, very difficult year, but of 2 years, but thanks very much. And I'd also like to give my thanks to Merig's consort, Mrs. Nesta Davis, Merrick's wife. She's given outstanding support to you over the last many years, actually, over the last 25 years. So it's a great privilege and an honour to follow you in this job. So thank you very much, and can I just wish you every happiness and health over the coming years. And if you would like to take your badges, thanks. Thank you very much, and congratulations on the amount of money that you've raised as well. Thank you. Okay, so okay, I'll read that out, shall I? This is the declaration of acceptance that I will now read out. I, Alan James, having been elected to the office of Chairman of Denbighshire County Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code for the time being as to the conduct which is expected of members of Denbighshire County Council and which may be revised from time to time. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Okay, then just need to announce that my consort for the coming year will be my wife, Wyn Mullen-James, and thank you very much, Wyn, for agreeing to support me as you have done for many, many years. So I'm very, very pleased. My chaplain for the coming year will be the Venerable Archdeacon Andy Grimwood, and my charities will be Macmillan Cancer Support and Real Lifeboat Crew. Just a few words, really. It's a great honour and privilege to represent Denbighshire in my role of Chairman of the County. And I thank you all for your support as we continue to work hard for our residents in this beautiful area of North Wales. I've already said it about Mairig. He's a very hard act to follow, and I'm sure that he will be around to give me advice and support at any time. So thank you, Mairig. Thanks very much. You've been a great example. You are a great example, and if I can follow that in any way, I should be. I don't think I should be doing too badly, quite frankly. Just quickly as well, I want to just plug my charities for this year. I intend to cycle Land's End to John O'Groats for Macmillan Cancer Support starting on the 8th of June. That is obviously restrictions permitting. And for those who would like to sponsor me, support me in any way, I think there's still time to join us on the trip. So if you get your bike out and get the dust off, you can always come with us. It's over 12 days. Continually riding, although we are staying in some nice places, Chepstow, I think Shrewsbury is another place, and so on. Please look on the Macmillan Cancer Support website. It's just giving for Team Doris. Don't go into that, please, or contact me through the usual channels. So thank you very much for that. Okay, we now go on to the appointment of Vice Chair. And so I would welcome a nomination, please, for Vice Chair for the municipal year of 21-22.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Christine Marston for the position of Vice Chair. But before I do, I'd also like to congratulate you on your appointment. I hope that the coming year will be an eventful year, in that you will be able to actually attend events in your role as Chairman of the Council, which I know when we move to that in that direction, I know we'll be getting back to some sort of normality. But I hope that you and Wyn have a very enjoyable year. And as I say, that you can actually get out and about as well as chair our meetings. Can I also thank Mairig as the outgoing chair for his extended period in the chair. And can I always say that, you know, Meyrick, thank you for being impartial and fair as a chairman, and for the way you've managed our meetings. This year has not been easy in more ways than one, and I must admit, for most of us, getting used to the technology and the fact that we go to meetings now and we're straight into the meeting without even having a chat or a coffee beforehand is not the way I think council should be. But we have to do this because of the situation we find ourselves in. So I thank you very much, Meyrick, for your term of office, and I hope you enjoy being back on the back benches. On that point, I would therefore like to nominate Christine Marston as the candidate for the Vice Chairman of the Council. Christine's been a member of the Council since 2017 and has taken an active role on numerous committees, including partnership scrutiny and planning. She is a voice of reason, a good listener, and she will make an excellent choice for Vice Chair. Christine cares deeply about the local community. She was brought up near Ruthin, educated in Bryn Hyfryd School, and now lives at the Wine St Asaph. She completed a general nursing training at Glenclwyd Hospital before eventually becoming the ward sister on the stroke rehabilitation unit. Christine has pursued her interest in healthcare on the council. She has sat on the stakeholders reference group for Betsy Cadwaladr University Health Board since 2018. And recently she has been appointed to represent DCC on the Children's Residential Assessment Unit Project Board. Christine values the opportunity to represent Denbighshire and to improve and scrutinise health provision. Christine was a company director of North Wales Garden World alongside her late husband Hugh in Kimnel Bay. Christine successfully managed all aspects of the business, including buying products, managing the team, interacting with customers and bookkeeping. This has highly developed her diplomacy in dealing with customers and staff. Christine enjoys walking, gardening and flower arranging. She is passionate about the local environment and she sits on the AONB Partnership Committee. Christine considers herself a proud Welsh woman and has lived in Denbighshire all her life. She has an appreciation of the culture and understands and speaks a little Welsh. She is passionate about important issues and is not afraid to voice her opinions. I believe that she has been an asset to the council for the past 4 years and wants to do her best for Denbighshire. I do hope, therefore, you will consider appointing Christine as Vice Chairman of Denbighshire County Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Thanks very much for that. Do we have a seconder for that excellent proposal?
Mr. Cadeirydd, it's with great pleasure that I would like to second Councillor Marston for the post of Vice Chair. Diolch, Mr. Cadeirydd.
Thank you, Councillor Rees. Okay. Do we have any other nominations? Okay. Yeah. So we've had a proposal and a seconder. There's anybody against? Thank you very much, councillors. No, there's nobody against, so I welcome Councillor Christine Marston to take up the office of Vice Chair. I'm really looking forward to working with Christine. I think the words that have been said are very apt, very appropriate. So thank you very much. I think she'll be a great asset to this authority.
Thank you, Chair, for those kind words. I just want to thank everybody for your support, and hopefully this next year will, as Martin Holland said, an eventful year for yourself, and I hope I can do everything I can to support you in that role. Thank you. I, Christine Marston, having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of Denbighshire County Council, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe a code for the time being as to the conduct which is expected of members of the Denbighshire County Council and which may be revised from time to time. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Councillor Merrick.
Diolch yn fawr, parchus gadeirydd. Gai ddiolch am y caredigrwydd da chi wedi ddangos ac i bawb am y diolchiadau. A dymuno dda i chi fel cadeirydd newydd ac i Christine fel yr is-gadeirydd. Croeso cynnes iawn a diolch i chi am bob dim. Diolch yn fawr a diolch i bawb i'r cynghorwyr i gyd. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch, Merrick. We're now going to have a 15-minute break so we can sort of clear the clutter and recover a little bit, I think. And so we'll see you in 15 minutes, which is what, I don't know, 10 to 5, yeah, 10 to 5 to. Thanks very much indeed. See you in a few minutes. The 18th of May, County Council AGM, 18th of May. We assume that the apologies are, it's just a continuation of our meeting a little earlier. So declarations of interest still stand. Urgent matters.
Chairman,
Oh, sorry.
could I just say a few words, please, Chairman? I did have my hand up. I just thought if I could just say a few words, please.
Yes, certainly, Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just nodyn bach, really, danos fy'n werthfawrogiad I Meirig yn ei dymor fel cadeirydd. Mae wedi bod yn blwyddyn mor wahanol, a mae wedi bod yn eitha caled I codi profil y sir o achos yr amgylchiadau. Mae wedi bod yn blwyddyn heriol ac anodd iawn, ond mae Meirig wedi gwneud ei waith yn drefnus a chwdibodol, a wedi rhoi parch i'r swydd a gwneud bob peth yn ei allu I hybu bob peth sydd yn dda am Sir Ddinbych. Am hynny wastad yn bwysig, mae yna lot o gwaith da mynd ymlaen ar ôl y cadeirydd wedi crodi profil hynny, a dwi yn teimlo bod Meirig wedi gwneud ei orau efo hwnna gweithio ar feirws. Fel y gwyddom, mae sgiliau cadeirio yn wych, ac yn y cabit mae ei gwestiynau yn heriol, ond hefyd bob tro efo bwriad da. So diolch I ti Meirig am dy cefnogaeth. And may I also, Alan, Chairman, congratulate you on your appointments this morning and wish you all the best, particularly on your sponsored bike run. I hope you get a lot of sponsors to do that and hopefully find some willing partners from the councillors to do that. I'm sure Hugh Hilditch is one of those who would like to accompany you on that trip. And also to you, Christine Marston, congratulations on your appointment this morning. And I look forward to working with both of you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. We really appreciate the comments that have been made and echo what you've said about Meirig. I've said earlier, he is a hard act to follow, but I think it's our intention, Christine and I, to continue the very good work that's already said. It is a privilege and an honour to represent this county in and around North Wales. So we look forward to actually getting out there and promoting, as we always do, promoting this wonderful county and this local authority. So thank you very much. It's great to have the encouragement.
Diolch yn fawr, Hugh.
Thank you very much. Okay. We now go on to agenda item 5, which is the urgent matters as agreed by the chair. There's only nothing urgent, other than I'd just like to congratulate Mabon ap Gwynfor and Gareth Davies on their election to the Senedd, and commiserations to all those who stood in both Senedd and PCC elections who were not successful. So well done to everybody, and it's good that people are prepared to put themselves forward in these matters. So it's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So we now go on to agenda item 6, which is the minutes. Firstly, of the 15th of March, pages 7. Pages 7. That was a very short meeting. Are there any? Yeah. Is everybody comfortable with the accuracy of that particular minute or minutes?
Cynnig bod nhw'n gywir. I propose they're correct. Yeah, they are correct.
Okay. Medic, thank you. Thanks very much indeed for that. So we can move on to minutes of the County Council on the 13th of April, 2021. They're pages 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Can we have an agreement on the accuracy of the minutes, please? Yeah, proposed and seconded. Let's see, yeah, Merrick, thank you. Okay, with that, is there any items, any comments, items on page 9, page 10?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, it's
Peter.
Yeah, Peter Scott. I'll turn my screen off. With reference to page 10 that I asked about the NRW flood investigation report, it is now live and on NRW's website. If anyone wants to read it, it is there, about the floods back in 2020.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Peter, for that. So that's page 10, page 11, page 12, and page 13. No comments or add-ons. So can we agree that this is a true record? Yep. Okay. Thank you very much for that, councillors. Okay. We now go on to agenda item 7, which is notice of motion put forward by Councillor Martin Holland on behalf of the Welsh Conservatives for consideration by full council. So I'll call on Councillor Holland to put forward the motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope we don't have any technical problems, so bear with me, please. This motion calls upon the Budget Board, in making its recommendations to the Cabinet and Council for future allocations of capital, to give full consideration to increasing the annual highways allocation to 4 million per annum as from 22-23. It also asks the Council to support as a first allocation of any unallocated windfall funding in this year 21-22, with the intention of supplementing the Capital Highways Fund for 21-22. Most of us, most councillors would agree that our inboxes are full of emails from residents who are complaining about the poor state of our local roads. You know, with potholes and poor road surfaces a major concern. Residents in both rural and urban areas have seen their roads deteriorate despite our current capital contributions. And another cold, wet winter has only led to even bigger potholes. Those of us who live in rural areas also have a higher number of unclassified roads, which are way down the list for attention. But the residents who live in these areas pay their council tax and for the repairs to their cars and vehicles. 2 or 3 years ago, we scrutinised the state of our bridges, and at the time, there was an expected repair bill of £11 million. Many of those bridges were in rural areas and were critical to the economic health of those rural communities. My group have discussed this issue at a number of group meetings and feel that as the Budget Board starts their process of looking at the allocation of funding for the next financial year, that we should ask them to seriously consider highways as a priority in the coming years. By raising this now, they can at least provide councillors with figures for the annual budget process. We've also spoken to highways about the budget figure and asked them what would be required to make, excuse the pun, inroads into the backlog of repairs. And they have quoted a figure of 4 million for the next 5 years, an increase of 1.5 million a year. This would be normally funded from potential borrowing and or the sale of capital assets. Many roads are in urgent need of attention now to make them safe for road users. And it is therefore important that any surpluses in this financial year are used wisely and quickly and preferably directed to our roads. I ask all councillors to support their communities by supporting this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Do we have a seconder for this? Although I see that Councillor Pennington wants to speak, so
I'll second the motion, Chair, though, first, if that's okay. Peter Scott.
so Peter's going to yeah. Can Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill come and make some comment, please, on this?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, Chair. And my congratulations to yourself and Christine on your elevation to Chair and Vice Chair, respectively. With regards to the motion, as you acknowledge, Councillor Holland, we have a very clear process in place for determining capital schemes to be brought forward. The Budget Board is in the initial stages at the moment of reviewing a significant number of proposals. I think the long list is up to around about 180 odd million pounds over the next 4 or 5 years. So it's no small task to actually work its way through that. And that's actually including, of course, increasing the highways block allocations, which would, of course, necessitate increasing the revenue allocation to support any increased prudential borrowing. The board will later in the year be making recommendations to Cabinet and Council as appropriate. And of course, we are well aware of the highways network and its importance to both members and residents, and will consequently give all due consideration to the business case which has been prepared in its deliberations, alongside the work we are doing, as I say, to prioritise competing bids. With regard to the second part of the motion, we don't usually try and pre-allocate in-year funding for the very simple reason that we have no guarantee that there will be any, and should there be any, when it will arrive and how much it will be. But in principle, if members wish it, then making some additional highway spend first call on any one-off funding which may come in would be a perfectly permissible recommendation to make, but that's obviously a matter for members to determine. So just to summarise, as I say, it is an issue. Obviously, the Budget Board are already bearing in mind in their deliberations. That will continue through the course of the process, and it will feed into, let's say, the recommendations which will be brought back to members in the fullness of time. So I think that's probably all I need to say at this point, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I've got three speakers on this, so I'll call Councillor Paul Pennington first, please.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to all those who've been congratulated so far. I'm quite surprised, to be honest, this motion has been presented today by the Conservative group. They're all heavily involved in budgeting and highways. They've got 4 cabinet members. They know all the ins and outs of how budgeting works and how the highways budget works. Obviously, all of us would agree that our highways need some serious attention in several areas, but we've been told by Julian Thompson-Hill for many years that we don't have the finances to address all the needs in the county, which includes the highways. For example, in February this year, Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill told us we are currently facing a budget shortfall approaching £10 million, and services were asked to come forward with proposals for an up to 4% reduction in their budgets. Councillor Brian Jones, lead member for Highways, who originally submitted this motion, and Cabinet Leader for Highways would have been well aware of that and presumably should have been involved in the Highways budget reductions beforehand. The new presenter for this motion, Councillor Martin Holland, must surely remember voting in 2014 to reduce the Highways budget by £250,000 a year. So both of them, in fact, all three of them, are fully involved in these kinds of decisions. They know what's going on. So where do they think this suggested £4 million is going to come from? And they're not stupid, any of them, I wouldn't say that. So I suspect there may be slightly more to this motion than the wishful thinking it would seem. I suspect it may just be a half-hearted attempt to grab some headlines in the Daily Post that the Conservative Party support the highways and nobody else does. But I do wonder where the windfall funding may come from, they mention. So to sum up, I'm rambling a bit, so I'll sum up with some questions. Just prior to lockdown in 2020, Welsh Government invited applications for additional highways funding across Wales, totalling £65 million. The deadline for that application was February the 14th, 2020. Was Councillor Brian Jones, lead member for Highways and Conservative group member, involved in any discussions or applications around that funding? If so, have we been, or do we expect to be allocated any funding? If so, how much? Diolch yn fawr.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Thanks to Councillor Pennington. Councillor Mabon ap Gwynfor, congratulations, Councillor, for your success in achieving election to the Senedd.
Diolch, Gadeirydd. Diolch yn fawr iawn a llongyfarchiadau i chithau ar eich ethol yn Gadeirydd ac i Christine hefyd. Yn sydyn iawn, mond i ychwanegu at yr hyn ddari cynghorydd Paul Pennington ddweud, pan ddari fi ddarllen yr cynnig yma, oeddwn ni'n gegrwth, dyna'r gwir. O'n i'n methu credu fod y fath gynnig yn cael ei roi ger bron. Yn un peth, mae'r cynghorydd Brian Jones a'r grŵp ceidwadol oll wedi cefnogi y gyllideb sydd wedi bod ger yn bron ni nôl ddechrau'r flwyddyn, yn gwybod yn iawn beth oedd y gyllideb, yn gwybod yn iawn beth oedd goblygiadau'r gyllideb hynny. Yn wir, maen nhw wedi cefnogi pob gyllideb sydd wedi bod yn ystod tymor y cyngor yma. Yn fwy na hynny, maen nhw wedi helpu llunio y cyllidebau hynny. Nid yn unig i pasio nhw, ond i llunio nhw. Ac ymhellach i hynny, mae nhw efo hanner aelodau'r cabinet, nid yn unig wedi llunio fo, ond wedi creu y gyllideb ac wedi rhoi ger yn bron ni ac argymell i ni i gefnogi cyllideb nhw. Dyna pam yn bod ni ddim wedi cefnogi fel grŵp Plaid Cymru gyda llaw, achos yn bod ni'n anghytuno efo sut mae'r gyllideb wedi cael ei ffurfioli. Ond dyna ni. A rwan, maen nhw'n dod ata ni ac yn dweud bod nhw'n anghytuno efo'r gyllideb ac yn credu dylid ffindio pot arall o bres. Wan, does neb yn anghytuno fod yna'n problem efo'n ffyrdd ni. Mae yna broblemau dybryd efo'n ffyrdd yn wir. Wsos yma, dwi wedi gwahodd un o'n prif swyddogion i ddod lawr i'n ward i weld y problemau anferthol sydd ar y ffyrdd yma, yn enwedig yn ffyrdd cefn ni. Mae angen mynd i'r afel ar broblem yma. Ond nid fel hyn, mae datrys y broblem, nid fel hyn mae llunio cyllideb, mae'n ffordd gwbl anghyfrifol yn wneud hynny. Pwrpas rhoi cynnig ger bron ydy mwyn llunio polisi. Polisi sydd yn mynd i fynd ar cyngor ymhellach ymlaen mwyn rhoi cyfeiriad i'r cyngor. Nid llunio budget cyllideb fel yma. Felly mae'n anghyfrifol, mae'n anghywir y broses yma, a swn i'n gobeithio fod y cynnig yma yn mynd i gael ei wrthod yn llawn ac fod y ceidwadwr yn ystyried yn llawn i rôl nhw yn y broses o lunio cyllidebau.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bobby Feely, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And congratulations on your new appointment and all the best wishes for the year ahead. And also to Christine. Leaving aside the rights and wrongs of who should or shouldn't have put forward a notice of motion, which I would like to keep completely out of, I'm just wondering if you have the rationale for why Denbighshire's roads are so bad that they need an extra 1.5 million on top of what they have already allocated this year, which is 2.5 million. And I wondered how we compare with the other 5 North Wales authorities. you know, our roads, if our roads are worse than all the others, why are they so bad here? You know, I'm just curious to know why this should be the case.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Feely. Councillor Joan Butterfield, please.
Thank you, Chair. May I add my congratulations to you and Wyn on taking the chair of the county, and also to Christine for her appointment. Going on from that, Chair, I'm very concerned about where the money will come from. I did send an email asking where this money might come from, but I didn't get a definitive answer to my question. It has been said, and I'm not going to go over all that's been said, but it has been said, but we do have a major problem with our roads. But I think we should stick to the process that we already have in place in the county on how we budget for schemes. It seems to start at this moment in time to change a process seems to be not the right way to go. I think also that on our roads, we do experience it every day, and we do have complaints constantly about our roads. But I think it's time we started thinking outside the box. And I do remember some months ago that Councillor Barry Mellor brought the problem with the roads in the county to the MAGS and to DCC meeting, asking that we research what can be done. And he found that there was a company called RHYBUDD, a company that recycles plastic to repair, recycles plastic waste to repair roads. Now, have we as a council explored all these avenues to try to alleviate the problems that are existing in our roads? This company seems to be working throughout the British Isles and is having wonderful reviews. And I think we as a county should certainly be looking at things outside the box. But I am concerned that to start changing our policies on budgeting issues at this stage, very close to the end of a council life, I think that it would be a retrograde step. We would be putting in place something that might influence the incoming council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Butterfield. There appears to be no more speakers on this. So we've had a proposer and a seconder. Sorry. Okay, thank you. I've just been notified that Councillor Timms has raised his hand. So and he'd like to say a few words on this. Thank you.
Can I say a word?
Well, Cadeirydd James, and congratulations, and congratulations to Christine as well. I could vote on the proposal in two sections, and the reason for that is the first section talking about the budget board. I know that this has already been achieved because it's on the agenda for their meeting in June, and so the £4 million figure will be discussed then. So I'm quite happy to vote in favour of that because it's already happening anyway. The second part I'm not happy about. I think that any unallocated funds that come into the county, that needs to be very carefully considered. Cabinet know the needs, members know the needs, and at that time a decision needs to be made. There are some really important issues that we've got to deal with. Climate change, of course, maybe to advance in that. So can we split the motion in two? I want to vote against the second part and for the first part because it's already happened.
Okay, thanks, Councillor, for that. I've got four more speakers actually. So we'll go to Councillor Hugh Williams.
Can I come in on the last point, please?
You want to come in now?
Tim, yeah.
Okay, I'll bring in Gary for some legal advice. Thank you.
The motion that's been moved is as set out, and it's a single motion. So I think the process would be that either the mover of the motion would need to agree to take it into two parts, or you'd have to move an amendment that it be dealt with, and then you'd need a second, and then we'd need to vote on the amendment.
Would it be, is the mover of the motion prepared to accept that it's split into two parts?
I would prefer it to stay as it is, Mr. Chairman, because the second part really, again, is giving the board the option of looking at any surpluses that we may or may not get, or any funds we get from anywhere else in this financial year. And that's key to all of this. You know, the budgets are stretched, there's no question of that, but we do have large numbers of potholes in our roads and we need them filled. So if there are extra funds coming through, and we don't, you know, I'm waiting to see what the outcome of the, you know, the COVID effect is on our budgets. But, you know, for example, and it may be only relatively small in real terms, but there's been a massive cutback on travelling expenses in this council because of the COVID effect. So it's looking at all those things, and if we save a couple of 100,000 on or 100,000 on travelling expenses in the year, that will fill a lot of potholes. That's what I'm saying, Mr. Chairman. As far as I'll come back at the end if I may and speak then. Okay.
Well, what I propose is we've got 4 more speakers, and it'll give opportunity for other things to be thought about. Gary?
Well, can I just, I think you need to revert back to Councillor Timms then and ask if he wants to make a formal amendment to the, propose a formal amendment to the motion. Okay.
Councillor, did you hear that, Councillor Timms? Do you want to make a formal amendment to the proposal?
Can I come back later in the debate to propose it if I want to? Depending on how the debate goes, I'd like to make a decision based on that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my suggestion is we've got 4 more speakers. It'll give people an opportunity to think things through, and so we'll hear the 4 speakers. Hugh Williams first, please.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to everybody in the new office today. I'd just like to thank Brian Jones for coming out several times to my ward. I have nagged him, I have harassed him over potholes in my ward. I live in a rural area and we don't have a lot in the rural area, but we have a lot of roads, probably more roads than that we have in the towns. And our roads are in a state. Brian's met with residents, Tim Towers met with residents, and that's the biggest gripe I ever have. I'm just shocked with Mabon Ap Gwynfod's comments there, because I go up to his ward with my work, and the roads up in his are shocking. Let's put politics behind us. Let's put politics out the window. Let's vote for the residents of Denbighshire. Forget your politics. Forget your headlines and your daily posts and your free press. Vote for the residents and vote to get the road sorted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hugh, please.
Good morning, everybody. Quick congratulations to all those that are enjoying fresh new office. Well done for your efforts. Coming back to this morning's debate, if we had been coming into council now and Councillor Holland was proposing that we increase the budget for this financial year by 1.5 million to carry out road repairs, then the sorts of criticisms that he's had morning, I could be, or would have been justified. That's not the case. During this debate, I've been reading the resolution again, and it's always, all it is saying is we're asking the budget board to give consideration to increasing the annual highways allocation to £4 million per annum. Whether they accept that request, whether they're able to meet part of it, we're yet to see. Nobody is making any suggestions this morning about extra budgets or extra funding in this financial year. It is just being said, please, when we're looking at the future allocation from 2022 onwards for the capital expenditure, can we look at increasing the highways budget? I think to be a councillor and decline to support that, it actually verges on the irresponsible. So whether we've got urban wards or rural wards, we've all got major road surface problems. That's not a criticism of anybody. Highways have been very helpful with me and they've done things when I've asked them to do, but there's a lot of work out there needing to be done, and we need to be looking at ways and means of can we find more funds to improve and increase it. Nothing more, nothing less. And to suggest that we're trying to change budgets or policies is irresponsible. I hope we'll support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irving. Councillor Brian Jones, please.
I'll come in after the Speaker's chair. My hand was up last.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Glenn Swingler, please.
Yeah, good morning. It is still morning, is it? Yeah, good morning. Well done, everybody, on your new appointments. Thank you, everybody. What we have here is a motion being put forward by the Conservative group against their Conservative finance minister. We've voted on these budgets year after year after year, and each time the roads budget has been cut. That's the reason I didn't vote for the budget, or one of them. I also didn't vote for the budget because we've cut schools' budgets as well. Is every week, every month, are we going to have a motion from every lead member asking that we commit to spending more money in each of their departments? Because let's be honest, each department does need more money, doesn't it? Yeah, you voted for these cuts to our road building programme and our repairs programme year after year after year, and now complaining that we don't have enough money for the roads. We know the roads need doing, and it's essential that they get done. But we have all these other issues as well. I mean, I just want people to make up their minds, please, about what it is they're voting for.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Swingler. Councillor Brian Jones, I've got one other speaker after you, which is Councillor Julian Thompson. So if you want to go next, Councillor Jones.
Right, thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Penlington for that comment where he made earlier that apparently he doesn't think I'm stupid. He has been quoting me as being stupid over the last 12 months a couple of times. So thanks for that now, and I'll go to bed tonight and sleep tight on that one. Thank you very much. To answer Mabon Gwynfor on the £60 million that Welsh Government received from the UK government, I did actually write a letter to the Minister concerned to make sure that we weren't forgotten up here in Denbighshire. I never got a reply to that, so perhaps when he's down at the Senate, he can put that on one of his to-do lists, that little old lead members get responses from ministers when they write letters in. And from that £60 million, we didn't actually get anything for highways, because we put in bids for flood monies, and in 1920 financial year we received circa £1 million, which we subsequently spent, and in the financial year 2021 we've got about £750,000 to spend on flood repair work. So that partly answers that question there on that. I'd like to thank Councillor Hugh Williams. He's absolutely spot on. He definitely gets it. I've spent the best part of 4 years travelling around the county, looking at roads that you can't answer why aren't they being repaired, because there's not enough funding. We put together the members' workshop, which was favourably received earlier on this year. I had lots of compliments from that. Within that workshop, there was a section there on what we're doing as an authority to repair the roads using recycled material off the point of contact where the roads are being repaired. So we are doing things like that. If you go back to the slides of that members' workshop, you'll actually see what we're doing. There's an element in there about carbon reduction, and there's certainly that element in there about using existing road sediment and fragments to resin up and reuse. And on the point about plastics, that technology is not further enough down the line yet to use it in volume. It's not there yet, but we will be keeping an eye on that, or the officers will, and we will take it up in the next council if it's up to spec. Hugh Williams said about the politics, and he's dead right. The comments I'm hearing here from mainly the Plaid group is they don't want to make the roads better in Denbighshire. If they read the motion properly, we're talking about allocations in the 2023 financial year. We're not changing the budget process that's up and running now. We're not doing it because I'm a Conservative. I'm doing it and I'm supporting it for the residents of Denbighshire. And that's what all you should be doing, because otherwise you're letting your residents down very, very badly by playing politics, which in the eyes of residents is right up the top of their priorities. Wherever you go in the county, whoever you speak to, the issues with the state of the highway are top of the pops, and you've got a duty to support this motion off the back of that, because if you don't support it, you're voting against trying to make a difference on the network in Denbighshire on the highways. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll call Councillor Julian Thompson, and then Gwyneth Councillor wants to speak, or Councillor Gwyneth Councillor. So, Julian, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just to clarify a couple of points, and there was actually a question that hasn't been picked up yet as well, as to what. So I'll answer the question first, and then a couple of points I just wanted to make clear. In terms of it was asked what's represented by the term windfall. That would essentially mean any unhypothecated external funding that was allocated to the authority, i.e. any grant funding which was not given for a specific purpose, any capital receipts which may come in during the course of the year. So it's or a combination of those two factors, or any other cash, I suppose. That is that would be the meaning of the second part of the motion. In terms of a couple of points that have been made, and I just wanted to clarify it. I'm sure members are aware, but just to make everybody 100% clear, what is being talked about, as I understand the motion, the first part of it is essentially reinforcing what I've been hearing both as a local member and from backbench members for a number of years, that we want to try and address the highways budget. The business case has been developed, and it's been developed by the service, and it will be going through the sausage machine, so to speak. And there's nothing in the motion there which is committing anybody to anything at this stage, because, as I say, we are reviewing a whole swathe of competing bids at the moment, and we will come back later in the year with recommendations to Cabinet and Council as appropriate. And one other point, I just think I need or two other points I just need to clarify that have been bandied around. I can't remember which member said it, but I think it was referred to that the roads budget has been cut year on year. And I think we just need to clarify that we're talking about capital allocations here, not revenue budgets. Yes, if in future years, if members determine they wish to increase the block allocation for this area, there would need to be a revenue allocation increased in order to support potential borrowing to create that. But for the current year, there's been no reductions in service budgets, and the capital allocation to highways has remained largely unchanged for a number of years, and that's in line with the fact that the block allocations are funded primarily through our own prudential borrowing, the Welsh Government unhypothecated capital grant, and any capital receipts that come in during the course of the year. So in discussions, if it's felt and that this is a high priority, and I think from what members have been saying, regardless of which persuasion we're all coming from, I think it probably will come out as as a fairly high priority area for both residents and members, then I'm sure the Budget Board will make an appropriate recommendation to members in the fullness of time. The only decision I think that's being asked for today by this motion is in the second part about whether members are comfortable in essentially pre-allocating any windfalls that actually come in during the course of the year and pre-allocating them essentially to highways, and that's a member obviously that's a matter for members to decide upon. But I just wanted to make it clear, we are not talking about revenue budgets here. There's no changes to revenue budgets in year, and any determinations on next year's budget will take into account all the bids, all the pressures from across all the services.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill. I've got 3 more speakers, and then I'm going to close this discussion, and we'll go back to the procedures. So I've got Gwyneth Kensler, followed by Barry Mellor, and then Rhys Thomas. So Gwyneth, Councillor Gwyneth Kensler, if you could speak, please.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Since we're talking about highways, I would first of all like to say how much I welcome the reorganisation within Tony's team. Those of us who've been on the council long enough will know that highways, I feel, have been badly treated in the past. We were going to amalgamate with Conway. There was going to be one officer in charge of Conway and Denbighshire, and they've been messed around a long time. So I welcome the reorganisation. Julian has answered one of my questions, which was about service challenges. Do these still take place? And but I do have one question. Within highways, does this include the rights of way budget as well?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barry Mellor, please.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to you and Wyn, and to Christine. I don't know what all the problem is here. This motion is being put forward just for the Budget Board to look at the possibility of finding this £1.5 million. I've just spent a week down in Shropshire, and I've never been on worse roads in my life. Denbighshire's roads are much better, but they are in need of more extra funding. I'd like to thank Brian for putting us in the picture that they are looking at that waste plastics made into pellets into the tarmac. It will make the road last a lot longer.
Can I stop you a minute, Councillor Mellor? You're breaking up. Do you want to just switch your camera off, and that might improve the situation?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to thank Brian Jones to let us know that they are looking at the waste plastics to put into pellets, to put into the tarmac, which they say does help the roads last longer. It also works of getting rid of these waste plastic that we know that is a massive problem. So I'm pleased that we are looking at that. I think today, all we're asking is the board to look at the possibility. If the board comes back at a later stage to say, well, the preset might have to go up, that's the time, I think, when we need to disagree or agree on it. So I don't see a problem with this at all. I would be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mellor. And the last speaker on this is Councillor Rhys Thomas, please.
Thank you, Chair. Llongyfarchiadau chi. Congratulations to the two of you. This discussion has gone back and forth, and we've realised that there are two parts to this. I don't think there's a single member present who doesn't want the roads in their wards to be improved and to kept up to standard. In the Denbigh MAG, we had a very useful meeting with Tony and Tim only a week or so ago when we discussed their future plans. I would like us to keep to due process with this. There's been talk about things going back to the budget board. I would actually like to propose an amendment to this, that both parts of this motion, that the whole motion is taken back to the budget board, and that we get an answer back to the next full council, if possible, from the budget board with more details about the implications, the financial implications of what's being talked about. So I would propose a motion to propose an amendment that this whole motion goes back to the budget board and there is a reply brought back to full council on this as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I just return now to Councillor Timms, and you were looking at something.
Sorry, Chair. I think if Councillor Thomas has formally moved an amendment, as I understand he has, then you need to see if you've got a seconder for that.
Okay. Councillor Merrick.
Ilya.
Okay, we've got Councillor Thomas has made an amendment to the motion to go back to the budget board for more information and bring back to the council. I think that's roughly as it was. I'm sure Gary will tighten it up. And we've had a seconder, which is Councillor Merrick Lloyd Davis. So,
Chair, can I? Sorry, I don't want to cut across anybody here, but it's just I'm going to solely comment on the amendment. I just wanted to say that I'm not quite sure what actually that would. I'm speaking now as chair of the budget board, wearing another hat. Essentially, that the amendment is really only stating what is actually already going to be happening anyway. So. And if you were suggesting, which I think you were originally, that it come back to the next meeting of full council, that would be far too early in any event, because, as I say, we've got a whole process to actually go through with a number of other competing bids before we can come back with recommendations. So, whilst I understand the reasoning behind why you were saying that, Rhys, I'm not actually sure this will achieve what you think, what you're trying to achieve.
Thank you.
Well, Chair, if I'm allowed to come back to that, I just think it makes it clearer to all members that everything involved in this motion would be discussed properly by officers in finance, and they could come back with detailed figures about how this motion would work out in practice. I just thought it firmed up what seemed to me a rather vague situation, that some things could be done, other things couldn't. I just thought it made it a little bit clearer. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, sorry, Chair. I don't want to make this a to and fro on this, but just to clarify, that the whole point of the work that the budget board is currently undertaking in terms of developing an overall capital strategy, and what we're talking about is some horizon scanning. So we're not just dealing with things ad hoc. We will have a view of what we think is likely to come forward in the next 4 to 5 years. So what we're trying to avoid is bringing bids forward in isolation, regardless of the merits or demerits of the individual bid. So I think we need to go through that process and then bring the whole work back to members rather than one element just in isolation. But I mean, it's in members' hands at the end of the day. So yeah. I'll shut up now.
Chair, I agree. As Julian said, we don't want this to go back and forth all day. I agree completely with what he says, which is why I'm surprised that this motion has been put forward at this meeting in the first place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring Steve Gadd in, who's head of BAF Finance, and have comments from Steve, please.
You on mute, Steve?
I put the video up. Yeah, sorry. I put my hand up. Actually, Julian's made all my points. Really, certainly at the next council, we won't have all the information for the budgets for 22, 23, and beyond. We'll still be in that discussion phase. As I think someone mentioned, it is on the agenda for June's budget board, but lots of other capital requests and that horizon scanning are also coming to the budget board at a later date. So we will be coming back to the council with that overall picture, but it certainly we won't be in any better position really than now to bring anything definite, so I think Julian made those points anyway, so sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I'm going to ask Gary to come in and give us some legal view on this, please.
Oh, it's just a process view, Chair. You've got a motion that's been proposed and seconded, and then you then have an amendment that's been proposed and seconded. So under the terms of the standing orders, you need to deal with the amendment first. So the proposer, as I understand, was proposing that the motion be amended by referring it effectively to the budget board and asking for a report back to council from the budget board. You've heard what Steve and Julian have had to say about that. So the question is whether Councillor Thomas wants to proceed with that amendment or not. If he does, then we need to go to a vote on the amendment before we can deal with the substantive motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thomas, please.
Yes, I'd like to proceed with that, please, Chair, but the timescale of bringing it back to full council would depend on the budget board. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to proceed with the vote on the amendment, please.
If I may then, Chair, my understanding of the amendment is that the council would refer the content of the motion to the budget board for further consideration and ask for a report back to council at a time.
We are mute, Steve. We are mute.
All right.
Sorry.
Nati ddim ar wel.
Mae'n ddrwg gen i.
Sorry,
shall I start again, Chair?
Yes, please.
I understand the amendment to be a request that the content of the motion to council be referred to budget board and that budget board be asked to prepare a report back to council at a date that the budget board considers appropriate when it's been able to take into account other material considerations. That, as I understand it, is the amendment, and if the amendment's to go forward, then we need to vote on that. Can I just confirm with Councillor Thomas that that was a reasonable description of the amendment?
Yes, thank you, Gary. Good work. Thank you.
In which case, Chair, the way for us to deal with this would be by way of a poll on the Zoom system, and I'll ask, if, with your indulgence, Steve Price, just to explain to members how that will work.
Please, if you're happy with that, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. We'll put up a Zoom poll. It will appear on your screen, those of you who are on Zoom, which is the majority of you. We have 3 elected members in the chamber who aren't part of the Zoom meeting, so we'll add their votes to the total. Obviously, this is for elected members only. We have officers on the Zoom meeting as well. So in a moment, Rodri will start the poll. There'll be options for the motion, against the motion, or to abstain. And if you'd just like to register your vote to that, please.
And just for clarity, that's the amendment. It might say the motion, but we're talking about the amendment.
Is everybody clear about what you're voting for, against, abstaining? Yeah. Okay. Right, we'll go ahead with that then.
Sorry, Chair, could you just, hang on. Could you just clarify what we're supposed to do here?
Councillor Feely, do you want to repeat what you said? No?
It's not Councillor Feely.
Who is it?
It's me, Chair, Councillor.
Sorry, Rachel.
I'm on the iPad, so I can't see how you do it, I'm afraid.
Okay, have you voted?
No, because I can't see how you do it on the screen.
I'm on my iPad, Rachel, and it just came up on the screen with the options, and I just clicked it on the iPad.
I can see polling process, but it doesn't say anything else, I'm afraid.
I've got nothing on my iPad at all.
No, it's not.
Yeah. It looks like you're.
I'm on an iPad and it's worked for me.
Just please, councillors, can we just have one discussion? Steve's going to come in and he'll give you some information. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Remote voting is probably the most difficult part of remote meetings. It looks like, Councillor Flynn, you've got a different view to the others. We seem to have the rest of the votes through. If you want to say your vote, if that's okay, if you're willing to do so, for, against, and abstain, and we'll count it to the totals.
I haven't commented at all, Steve.
Sorry, Councillor Flynn. Did I say Councillor Feely? I apologise. Councillor Flynn.
Sorry, Steve. Is this for the amendment or for the?
Just to vote for the amendment, for, against, or abstain to the amendment to the motion.
Yeah, against.
Against. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Steve, I haven't had anything at all. Councillor Blakely.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blakely. Do you want to cast your vote?
Yeah, I'll abstain as well.
Thank you. Just bear with us one moment.
How can you abstain?
Councillors, can those that are on speaking, can you mute, because we can hear conversations, please.
I'm just in the tail end of a decision.
I'm going to ask Steve to announce the vote, please. So, as I say, can you mute so we're not hearing other conversations, please?
Okay, thank you, Chair. The results of the vote were for the amended motion 12, against 25, and 3 abstaining.
Mr. Chair, the amendment's defeated, and so we now need to take a vote on the substantive motion.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Chair, could I come back on?
Is that Councillor Timms? Yeah. You're breaking up, Councillor. Can you switch camera off? Thank you.
Apologies. Back on suggestion, please.
No, we can't hear you. You're breaking up.
I just wanted, I don't know if you can hear me yet.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. I'd like to come back on my earlier suggestion because I would like to propose that the motion is taken in 2 parts. The first part, which is already going to happen anyway, of course, we're all in favour of that because we want the budget board to look at the 4 million increase. But the second part about the windfall, I think that's a different matter because we don't know how much is going to arrive, when it's going to arrive, and to allocate funding, which we really don't know about, when there may be other really important issues as well, is a bit of a dangerous precedent. That's my view, and I'd like to propose that we take the motion in 2 halves.
Oh, dear.
Yes, I think that's something that Councillor Timms can propose. Needs a seconder, and then we'd need to vote on that before we could vote on the motion.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for the counter proposal?
Mina I eilio gwelliant Cyngor Timms.
That Chair, I understand that's Cynghorydd Mabon ap Gwynfor seconding Councillor Tim's proposal. We're now in a position where we'd be asking members to vote whether or not they're in favour of splitting the motion into 2 votes or voting once on the whole motion. So can we set up a poll for that, please? So we'll relaunch the same poll, and members will be asked when they get the notice to vote for, against or abstain in respect of that proposal. If any members are unable to do so, can they wait a few seconds and then at the end indicate whether they've been able to vote or not, and we can tally the votes additionally. Thank you.
Members are clear about this now, okay? Thank you very much. Okay, Steve's going to announce, and then any members who aren't able to vote, we'll pick up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If has anybody not been able to vote through the poll?
Yes, Councillor Blakely.
Okay, how do you vote, Councillor Blakely?
I vote for the amendment put forward.
So you're voting for. Thank you. Everybody else has been able to vote. The results therefore are for, 20 votes against, 22, no abstentions.
Therefore, that proposal's defeated, Chair. So we now need to vote on the substantive motion. We will relaunch the poll in a second, and members now will be voting either for the motion as it appears on the agenda or against the motion as it appears on the agenda, or to abstain. If we run the poll now, please.
Okay, Steve's going to announce the results of this one.
Thank you, Chair. The result was 29 votes for, 9 votes against, and 2 abstentions.
So that has now been carried. So thank you, members.
Hey.
Thank you.
Hey.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to agenda item 8, which is a pay policy statement 2021-22, pages 17 to 60. To consider a report by HR manager and pay and reward specialist, copy attached, to seek council approval of the changes to the pay policy 2021-22. And are you going to open up the proceedings, Julian?
I'm afraid so, yes.
Okay, go for it. Thank you.
Okay, as members probably should be aware by now, it's a legal requirement that we approve our pay policy on an annual basis. And for those of you who think the time has flown quite quickly since we were last discussing this, that's because last year's was late in the year for the obvious reasons of COVID. So now we're back on our normal time schedule for getting the policy approved. And because it has been not that long since the last one, the policy has been updated to reflect any legislative or pay award changes since the last policy, although there aren't that many changes. And in the document, you will see any amendments colour tracked throughout. We also, as we usually do, attached for your information those pay scales that are currently in force. But I'm sure you're all aware that the current negotiations remain ongoing. They were obviously suspended for the period of the recent elections, and it may well be some considerable time before there is an agreement on a new pay award. Just a couple of the points that I wish to highlight in the actual pay policy itself. Section 5.7, I think it is. I'm sure you're all aware of the long convoluted history with regards to the cap on payments for staff leaving. For a great many years, I was reporting at this meeting that we were waiting for some legislative change to bring in the proposal that there would be a £95,000 cap put in place. That was put in place last year. However, it was very quickly then rescinded. So until new legislative framework comes forward with regard to this, we've essentially reverted back to the previous wording, which comes from Welsh Government, that essentially any leaving payment over £100,000 would need obviously to come to full council for approval or otherwise. Section 7.1 has been updated to give the figure for the lowest paid full-time equivalent salary, which is currently 17,943. And finally, to point out in section 7.4, the pay relativities. That's the ratio between the lowest paid full-time equivalent and the chief executive, and that currently stands at 1 to 7.6. Between the lowest paid full-time equivalent and chief officer salary is 1 to 5.2. The average full-time equivalent to the chief execs is a ratio of 1 to 5.7. And to chief officer 1 to 3.9. To put that into some sort of comparison, the maximum rate that would be acceptable is a ratio of 1 to 20. So you'll see that we're considerably lower than that, and it reflects the quite flat management structure that we operate under as a council. I think that's probably all I needed to say. I don't know whether Sophie or Katrin, I think they're both present, wanted to add to anything. Otherwise, we're quite happy to go to members' questions.
Thank you, Julian. Yes, we've got Katrin Roberts from HR and Sophie Vaughan as well. So for any of you who want to raise any questions, they're here to answer, as well as Julian. So do any members want to make comment on this, please? Thank you. Mabon, please. Mabon ap Gwynfor.
Diolch Gadeirydd. Mond nodi Siom unwaith eto bod ni'n cyrraedd pwynt yma ac yn gweld fod yna ddau bwynt cyflog yn dal I fod o dan cyflog byw go iawn. Mi ydyn ni yn disgwyl adroddiad ers sawl blwyddyn bellach ar sut mae sicrhau bod yn staff ni'n cael y cyflog teilwng a theg ond yn dal I aros, felly mond mynegi Siom ar hynny. Diolch.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mabon. Anybody else want to raise any comments? No. Yeah, Gary's going to respond to you, Mabon, please.
Yes, just to say that work is ongoing in respect of a report back to council in respect of the real living wage. you'll see that it's in the forward work programme with an as yet unidentified date. There's a considerable amount of work required in terms of options as to what a roadmap would look like, and that work is ongoing. And as soon as we're in a position to do so, we'll be bringing that report back to council.
Gary, right, we've
Chair, it's Graham here. Sorry, can I just add to the comments that Gary's just made as well?
Sure you can, Graham.
And I think the other issue, Gary, is we're awaiting the pay claim for this year as well, are we not? And that will have an impact potentially on various calculations. Is that right, Gary?
That's right. The annual national pay negotiations were paused during the Senedd election campaign and have been recommenced since. I understand that the National Employers Association has made a counter proposal to the union's claim, so presumably that will now go through a process of negotiation.
Thank you for that. Right, well, we've got a recommendation, which is in point 3, that the council agree the recommendation.
Sure.
Sorry. Emrys.
Ie, diolch yn fawr. Diolch Cadeirydd. Mi nes I godi llawn electronaidd hefyd, ond yn dilyn beth yw'r ateb dwi wedi glywed I sylw cynghorydd Mabon ap Gwynfor. Ga I hefyd ychwanegu at llongyfarch I bawb sydd wedi derbyn roliau swyddi newydd o heddiw ar y cyngor hefyd, a hefyd I Mabon a Gareth ar i'w llwyddiannau diweddar yn yr etholiad. Fel y Mabon, da ni bod yn mae'r disgwyl adroddiad ys blynyddoedd bellach, 2 blynedd dwi'n meddwl, ar hyn, dal I ddisgwyl yda ni. Medrwn ni cael sicrwydd os gwelwch yna y bydd yr adroddiad yn cyrraedd ni cyn I dymor yr cyngor hwn ddod I ben ymhen llai na blwyddyn bellach.
Gary's going to respond. Thank you.
Yes, just to confirm, this particular report was requested by council earlier this year. Previously, council had asked for, had agreed that there'd be a report each year in respect of the position relating to the real living wage when compared with the National Pay Award. We were asked earlier this year to bring a report back with a potential roadmap should members wish to pursue it in respect of real living wage. And that's where a lot of the detailed work has to be done and is quite complex. The intention is definitely to bring a report before the end of this council term, yes, as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Right, everybody comfortable with that?
Okay. Chair, would you like me to move the motion then?
Yes, please, Julian, if you will.
Okay, so the recommendation is the council agree the recommendation from the senior leadership remuneration panel to the changes to the pay policy for 2021-22 as in Appendix A to the report, Chair.
Yeah, can I have a seconder for that, please? Jean Marston is seconding that. No. Is there anybody against these recommendations, please? And the great hush fell upon this place. So we can assume that the recommendations are agreed and we can move on to now agenda item number 9. Thank you for that. So at number 9, the annual review of political balance and appointment of scrutiny chairs, and then on page 61 to 74, and that's to consider a report by the Democratic Services Manager, copy attached, seeking decisions on committee-related issues. So we've got Steve, who's going to present this one. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Today's report contains information to assist the Council and the political groups to allocate seats on various committees in accordance with the Council's legal requirements. The statutory obligation is, so far as is reasonably practical or practicable, to allocate each political group within the Council the number of seats on committees in proportion to the total number of members each group has on the Council. Details of the allocations to the groups, plus the membership and vacant seats on committees, are given in the appendices to today's report. The group leaders throughout the year consider and consult with their members on vacancies and changes in membership. I'm not proposing that we go through the committees in the appendices to make changes now. Instead, I'd ask group leaders to discuss their allocations and committee memberships with their groups and liaise with me outside of the meeting on any changes. I have already had some responses on changes which I'll use to update committee memberships, Chair. One of the committees that does require full council to appoint its chair and members is the Democratic Services Committee. This is a statutory committee whose work on democratic functions links to national bodies, including the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales and the Welsh Local Government Association, amongst others. Council has previously decided to reappoint the existing chair and membership of the committee, shown in the tables in Appendix 2, and has delegated authority for any subsequent changes to be made by the group leaders, simply by letting me know what their changes were. By law, the chair cannot be a councillor from a group represented on Cabinet, and the chair of the committee has been yourself, Chair, Councillor Alan James, and by virtue of your appointment as chair of the council today, you're unfortunately no longer eligible to remain on the committee. So recommendation 3.1 of the report is for council to appoint the chair and membership of the Democratic Services Committee. I'd suggest that council reappoints the existing members of the committee and delegates authority to the group leaders to make any necessary changes to the allocations outside of the meeting, as it has done before, and for council to appoint the chair of the committee today if we have any eligible nominees. I think the remainder of the report, Chair, is for information, includes some information how scrutiny chairs are allocated and appointed, but no decisions are required from council on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Are we agreed on that? Mary wants to come in. Oh, you're everybody's agreed on the process.
I think that only leaves then whether we have any nominees to take your place on as chair of the Democratic Services Committee. It would need to be a member who isn't from a group on Cabinet, so that is the Labour group or the Plaid Cymru group.
Okay. Do we have any nominations today?
I think that was Councillor Butterfield.
Yes, Chair.
On mute.
Am I on mute?
Oh, you're fine now.
No, I'm fine. The Labour group have met. We were quite unsure as to whether Alan could stay on the Democratic Services or not. We are sad that we've lost him on the Democratic Services, but we did make a further nomination if indeed was a situation. And the nomination from the Labour group was Councillor Bob Mirror.
Joan, we can't hear you. Do you want to just switch off your camera and see if that's any better, please?
Sorry about this. Hang on, where's my camera?
Do it again.
Is that any better?
Fine, that's fine.
Oh, good. The Labour group did meet. We were sad that we were likely to lose Alan from Democratic Services, and we did, after making an inquiry as to whether he could stay on there or not, and realised that no, he couldn't. We did indeed make a nomination to fill his place on the Democratic Services, and I think that was Bob Murray. So if we are to make a nomination, I will nominate Bob to be chair of the Democratic Services Committee, Chair. Thank you.
We need a seconder for that.
We will need a seconder for that, Councillor Butterfield. And
thank you.
Thank you. And I can see a seconder, Jeanette Chamberlain-Jones. Yeah. And are there any other nominations from Plaid, please?
Not that, Chair, not that I know of, Chair.
Okay.
So Councillor Murray has been nominated and seconded, and there being no other nominee, then you just need to check if there's anybody against that nomination.
Is there anybody against the nomination of Bob Murray as Chairman of Democratic Services? No, okay. Fine, so
you can take that as the affirmation of the meeting.
Yeah, we assume that that everybody's in favour, and so congratulations to Bob Murray. Enjoy your reading, Bob.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We'll go on to agenda item 10, which is the annual report of the Council Scrutiny Committees for 2021, and that's pages 75 to 120. And we've got Councillor Graham Timms and Rhiannon Evans to present that, please. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Cadeirydd, just to introduce the report. The report contains an overview of how scrutiny works and a summary of the work for each committee. It also explains how council work can have members of the public to participate in it. And its work is both pre-decision in the form of different departments submitting items for discussion, or post-decision after a cabinet decision's been made and things are called in. Of course, this year has been very different. The pandemic's had a tremendous effect on the whole of the council's work, and every aspect of the council's work has been affected by the pandemic, and this of course includes scrutiny. Scrutiny committees didn't sit for a short while, and then the council came up with its recovery plan with a whole range of themes, and the scrutiny chairs and vice chairs decided that because of the pandemic, the existing plan for the agendas of the committees would be parked. In other words, all the items that were going to be discussed would be put onto a reserve list, and we would work through all of the themes for recovery after the pandemic. That happened in about the first 4 or 5 meetings of scrutiny after they restarted again. Some of those issues are going to be revisited. For example, the use of buildings is going to go to the next community scrutiny committee. But we were fairly quickly able to resume the normal business of scrutiny committee and took up the items that have been parked, and they've now been progressed. Public engagement's always very strongly encouraged, and previously there's only been a small number of scrutiny committees that have been able to be webcast. However, with the pandemic, this is one advantage, that they're now all online, and consequently all members of the public can watch the scrutiny committees as they are at the moment, so that's an improvement. In terms of public engagement, we've only had one item submitted during the pandemic, and that was about discussing the road traffic orders, the temporary road traffic orders. That was discussed at the Community Scrutiny Committee and looked at the schemes in Frill, Denbigh, Ruthin, and of course Llangollen. So public engagement is a strong theme that we want to continue to encourage. The scrutiny committees are also obviously looking at the progress on the 5 themes in the corporate plan. I just want to refer members to pages 9 to 17 of the report, because that talks about the effect that the pandemic had on scrutiny. Now, I think if you read those pages, it reminds you of really how dramatic the effect was on the council, and the vast amount of work which was done by the council to help members of residents in Denbighshire in the real troubles that came along with the pandemic, and those things of course are now continuing. And I think if there's a review of the council response to the pandemic, then that account there really sums it up well. Calling in of cabinet decisions. There were 2 calls in this year. That's the disposal of the land by Ysgol Pendref and the 21st Century Schools Band B programme. The latter part of the report, pages 21 to 30, goes through each of the 3 scrutiny committees and explains the work that they've been involved in over the course of this year. task and finish groups are set up by scrutiny committees. We've just had one for Gypsy and Traveller accommodation assessment set up, as you'll know. But there are two task and finish groups that ran through the last year. That's the Adult Social Care Services task and finish group. I think we should just call that a task group, actually, because I think it's been going on for quite a few years rather than a task and finish group. It doesn't seem to finish its work because there always seems to be a need to have that overview of that service. The other one's the Use of Plastics Committee, single-use plastics. That committee has now come to the end of its work, and some of its remit has been passed over to the Climate and Ecological Emergency Working Group. Just a success that's come through towards the end of the year, and that is that you'll remember that a couple of years ago, the Community Scrutiny Committee spent a tremendous amount of time discussing the Llantysilio fire on the mountain that burnt for about 6 weeks and caused tremendous devastation to that area. There's been a recent appointment which was suggested by the Scrutiny Committee, which was jointly funded by DCC and NRW, and the person appointed is now working with farmers, with the NRW landowners and the community to ensure that the moorland is managed correctly and that further fires will hopefully be averted. There's a mention at the end, towards the end of the report as well, about the joint scrutiny committee between Conwy and Denbighshire, PSB. That's been recently set up, and it was just starting to get going when the pandemic came along, and so its start has been rather slow in scrutinising the work of the PSB. However, there are dates for upcoming meetings, and let's hope that that scrutiny committee is able to fulfil its role effectively in the future. Just finally, I'd like to say that anyone that's on a scrutiny committee or has worked in this area will want me to pay tribute to RHYAN Evans, because she works tirelessly. She is a real star. She seems to get things done against amazing things in very short timescales. So I think we all should thank RHYAN for her work in supporting the scrutiny committee. So I commend the report to council, and I don't know if RHYAN wants to add anything.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. I've got one speaker just at the moment, two speakers now, Merrick as well. Can I just reiterate the comments that you've made regarding the support we've had from RHYAN? I've even learned a little bit of Latin as well as what scrutiny means, which so I thank you for that little bit of educational input as well, RHYAN, for me. It's very, very good. It's a very, very comprehensive report, lays everything out very, very clearly, and so there is no doubt about what scrutiny does, so thank you. So Jeanette Chamberlain-Jones would like to say a few words, please.
Yes. Firstly, congratulations on taking the chair, Alan, and the Vice Chair, Christine, and I wish you a very successful year of office. I'd also like to say personally a very big thank you to RHYAN and supporting officers who's helped our scrutiny throughout the year. And particularly, I'd like to thank all the scrutiny members of Partnership Scrutiny who have really worked hard this year under the difficult circumstances. So thank you for that. And Mr. Chairman, I'm very sorry, but I'm going to have to leave you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeanette. I've got Merrick, please, and then Councillor Arwell.
Diolch yn fawr, Parchus Cadeirydd. Ga I ofyn, wel, diolch gyntaf, reswm i cynghorydd Graham Timms ac i Rhiannon Evans am yr adroddiad cynhwysfawr da ni wedi gael. Ond os modd cael copi Cymraeg, os gwelwch yn dda, ac anfon Amy pen ddaw o. Diolch yn fawr.
Do you want to come back, Rhiannon? I'm sure there's no problem with the Welsh copy.
Na, dim yn broblem o gwbl. Mae yn deud yn yr adroddiad clawr, dwi'n meddwl, adroddiad drafft ydy hwn ar hyn o bryd. A pan mae wedi cael ei gytuno gen y cyngor, fydd yn gobeithio fydd heddiw, mi fydd o wedyn yn cael ei anfon i'w gyfieithu, a mi fydd y copi Cymraeg ar gael i bawb, fydd ar y wefan, fydd ar y mewnrwyd, fydd o bob man. So, mi fedra i anfon copi hefyd i'r cynghorydd Davies os gynnu eisiau.
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you, Rhian. Councillor Orwell, please.
Wel, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi, Mr Cadeirydd, a llongyfarchiadau i chi. Gai eilio beth sy'n cael ei ddeud am rhian fel swyddog. Dwi wedi cael y fraint o ddilyn y cynghorydd Hugh Jones, diweddar cynghorydd Hugh Jones, ar y pwyllgor perfformiad, craffu perfformiad, dipyn o act i ddilyn yn anffodus, ond mae rhian wedi bod yn angor i mi ar y pwyllgor. Enghraifft, gafodd ei brechlyn diwrnod cynt yr un Rhydychen, ac roedd hi'n sâl iawn, ond mi ddoth i'r cyfarfod yn angor i ni gyd. Llongyfarchiadau i chi bawb, ond dwi yn dymuno o chi nodi fy niolchiadau i'r swyddog Rhian Evans. Diolch i chi.
Thank you, Orwell, for that. Right, are there any other comments, speakers on this? If not, I'll ask Councillor Graham Timms to put forward the recommendation, please.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation, I think we've probably already done it, but the recommendation is that Council considers the report of the Scrutiny Committee and comments accordingly. I think perhaps we ought to say we approve the report actually, because we approve to transition.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. We have a second. Are there any objections to the report, negative comments or anything else? Thank you very much. We'll assume that that is going to be moved forward now, and we'll go on to item number 11, which is annual report of the Standards Committee. And Gary's going to present this one. It's pages 121 to 126, and it's to consider a report by the monitoring officer, a copy attached to present the work of the committee and its findings and observations to all council members as part of the committee's drive to increase standards of ethical behaviour and compliance with the members' code of conduct. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is the annual report of the committee. This covers the period from July 2019 until the end of the current municipal year, as due to the suspension of meetings during the earlier part of the pandemic. The scheduled meeting for this was cancelled. It's an annual report that the Standards Committee has been providing for some time. However, it will become a legislative requirement from next year under the provisions of the new Local Government and Elections Wales Act. So just confirms the good practice of having been bringing this report for the past few years. As members are aware, the Standards Committee's main role is to have oversight of the adherence to the Members' Code of Conduct, the training that members are given in respect of their responsibilities under the code, and as well providing that same function for all of the town, city and community councils within Denbighshire. There's a brief description in the report of the different types of member. There are 2 county councillors, a community council representative and 4 independent members who are co-opted onto the committee. We've also set out there the term dates of the independent members, because there are regulations around their terms, and much like the President of the United States, they can only do 2 terms, which shows how important the independent members of the committee are. The legislation requires that the committee has an inbuilt majority of independent lay people, and only one of those members can be the chair or the vice chair of the committee. During the period covered by this report, the committee only met on 6 occasions due to the pandemic, and there are some standing items that the committee considers. So they will always consider reports from members of the committee who've attended to observe meetings of other bodies, in order to glean whether there are any issues that might require additional training or support, or whether there's further guidance required. They always look at the overview of complaints that have been made by either other members or members of the public in respect of any of the elected members of the county or the town, city and community councils. That's presented in closed session because often complaints are made and then they're withdrawn or they're not investigated. But it does give the committee an opportunity to look at the sorts of issues that are being raised by people. And again, the whole aim is to improve the level of training and support that can be provided to members. Another important tool for that is the Code of Conduct Casebook. The Ombudsman produces this on a quarterly basis and effectively sets out in that casebook what the Ombudsman's Office has done in respect of matters that they've investigated, whether they have referred them on to standards committees or the adjudication panel for Wales. And there's a brief description of the behaviour that's been complained of, the action that's been taken and any sanction that may or may not have been imposed. And again, that's a useful tool for members to understand the sorts of conduct that are coming to the attention of the Ombudsman and the sorts of sanctions that are being imposed. As well as those standard matters, the committee's considered a number of other matters during the period. The committee did in July 2019, just after the last annual report, conduct a two-day hearing in respect of a member of a town council. That two-day hearing resulted in a finding that that member had breached the Code of Conduct and a suspension of 4 months was imposed on that member. The committee has also considered some national initiatives, such as the Local Government Association's campaign about civility in public life, which I know will be an issue that taxes members with a lot of the activity on social media, much of which is directed against elected members. And the committee has requested that further work be done on this by officers to prepare additional guidance for members on the problem of intimidation and abuse on social media. And that will be building upon materials that the Local Government Association is developing. Recently, the Ombudsman has published draft revised guidance on the Code of Conduct for elected members, both at unitary authorities and at town, city and community councils. It's a slight change in style with a greater use of examples and slightly more explanatory text. And whilst that revised guidance is in draft and hasn't yet been published, it will form a large part of the training that's provided to new councillors following the elections in May 2022. So it's a timely development. Members will be aware that we have a thing called the North and Mid Wales Standards Committees Forum. That's a body made up of the chairs and vice chairs of the standard committees of the constituent authorities. So that's North Wales authorities and Powys. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've not been able to arrange meetings of that, but it's hoped that they will be recommenced virtually. They usually meet twice a year to discuss matters of good practice or of common interest across standards committees. Looking to the future, the committee will be considering the implementation of the Local Government and Elections Wales Act. That contains new duties. So there's a duty on group leaders to promote and enhance good standards of conduct within their groups, and a duty upon the Standards Committee to monitor the way in which group leaders are discharging that duty. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there is a duty to provide an annual report under the terms of that legislation. The committee will be keen to meet with group leaders to discuss how that will work and what support that group leaders might want from the committee. And the committee will also be looking to increase its profile in respect of internal meetings of the council, learning from good practice from other areas where there'll be probably more attendance by members of the committee to observe meetings of the council, it being easier to do that now as well, of course, now that we're doing things by remote means. And the other thing that we're taking a look at in the next 12 months, particularly in readiness for the elections in 2022, is the issue of dispensations. Members will be aware that it's possible for them to apply for a dispensation in circumstances where they might otherwise be prevented from speaking at a meeting. and that is done by means of an application to the Standards Committee for that dispensation based upon statutory criteria. And speaking to other areas, it seems we have less of those applications from our town, city and community councils as some others do. So we will be promoting that over the course of the coming year to make sure that those councils, when they get their new intake, are well aware of the possibility of applying for a dispensation. Happy to answer any questions, Chair. Just said that the Chair of the Committee apologised he wasn't being able to hear today.
Thank you very much for that, Gary. Are there any questions that need to be asked? It's a very comprehensive report, as always, and very straightforward. Meirig.
Gynnig.
Thank you, Meirig.
Bod ni'n derbyn yr argymhellion.
Your proposal and recommendation, Meirig. So is there a second, please? Councillor Christine Marston, thank you. There's nobody against, is there? Let's be positive. No, fine. Do you want to read out the recommendations? Yeah, just 3.1. Sorry, Gary.
Yes, Chair, I'll just scroll up. That the Council receives the annual report of the Standards Committee.
Okay, so we accepted that. So we'll go straight on to now agenda item 12. Appointment of lay members to Standards Committee. That's pages 127 to 130 to consider a report by the monitoring officer. That's Gary. Copy attached to seek approval of the continued appointment of 2 lay independent members. So Gary, if you'd like to present that one, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's me again. I do apologise. The reason for this report, there was reference made to it in the previous report. Yep. Independent members of the Standards Committee are recruited via a public process. There's a public advert. The council appoints a panel to interview applicants, and then the council appoints independent members. 2 of the independent members that we currently have terms of office which are due to expire at this annual meeting. The regulations allow for independent members of the Standards Committee to be reappointed for a second term, but there is a limit. They can serve no more than 2 terms. Both Anne Mellor and Julia Hughes have been excellent members of the committee during their first term, diligent and conscientious, and indeed one of them is also a member of Flintshire Standards Committee, who's able to bring to bear experience and learning from that committee also. So the request for council is that both Anne Mellor and Julia Hughes be reappointed as independent members for a second term. That will be their final term. I'm happy to answer any questions that members may have.
Thank you very much. So are there any questions?
Yeah, I would propose.
I would second. I would second.
Second for that as well. Thank you very much. So that's anybody against?
Chair, sorry, I did have my hand up.
Sorry, Julian.
Yeah, it was not to go against the recommendation. They're quite happy with that. It was just a question to Gary. Obviously, the terms of office for the lay members no longer seem to marry up with the fact that we now have 5-year electoral cycles in local government. I was just wondering whether there was any movement to get the 2 married together going forward.
No, I don't think so. The regulations limit the extent of the second term. I think in some ways it is beneficial that they don't all finish at the same time. So we currently have 4 independent members. If members reappoint Anne Mellor and Julia Hughes, they will be able to serve for a further 4 years. The current chair of the committee's term of office, final term of office, will come to an end at the annual meeting next year. So we will need to recruit a replacement. And we have another independent member whose first term of office will come to an end this time next year. So we won't always have new independent members that we have to train at the same time. We will hopefully have some people who are experienced at the same time as new independent members come on board. But otherwise it would need a legislative change, and I'm not aware of anything in the offing.
Okay, thank you. You're happy with that, Julian? Must be. Hasn't said anything. Okay, okay. So we'll if there's no other comments, we'll move on to agenda item 13, which is the review of the role of Head of Service for Education and Children's Services. That's pages 131 to 154. And Julian, I think you're presenting this, aren't you?
I am indeed, Chair, as this is primarily a recommendation relating to remuneration of the role, and in my role as Chair of the Remuneration Panel. But obviously, I'm assuming Hugh is still in the virtual room. Should there be any technical questions? As members will be aware, the former Head of Education and Children's Services left Denbighshire last summer. I think we probably would all agree that there have been clear benefits from having one merged service. Interim measures were put in place whereby there were 2 acting heads of service, one covering each of the portfolio areas. Having reviewed the effectiveness of how this has worked, the recommendation coming from senior management and here as a lead member is that we should make the interim way of working a permanent part of our structure. So if I turn to the bit that I'm actually responsible for, from a remuneration point of view, therefore, this does create effectively an additional head of service post in our structure, which clearly has a financial impact, which is why we need to come to council, hopefully to approve that. Both roles have been assessed against our mechanism, the Corn Ferry Hay scale, which assesses a number of factors to come up with a score. And both of the roles have come out as being on the SLT2 level, which is the higher level of the 2 SLT levels. So therefore, the proposal would increase our costs by doing that, which is that by essentially creating an additional head of service post. But there have been some mitigating factors in terms of changes on the tiers below head of service, which have had some effect on that. So the overall increase in the budget for doing this would essentially be around about an extra £60,000. This went to the remuneration panel a couple of weeks ago, and the decision on that was to recommend to council that we proceed on the basis that's in front of you. So I think that's probably all I need to say. I don't know whether any officers or Hugh wanted to add anything to that.
I was going to call in Hugh Hilditch-Roberts if he would like to make some comments, and we've also got Catherine from HR as well. So if people want to make comments or observations, then after Hugh comes in, that would be great. Are you happy to come in, Hugh?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to you and Christine. I think, the work that we've done on this paper is based on the evidence of the last sort of 12 months, which we've had the 2 interim roles. The County Council was in a very fortunate position that the previous Head of Education and Children's Services was actually doing 2 roles. We've seen the most challenging year in education and children's services with COVID, and the roles and the specs that are in front of you clearly underline the huge responsibilities that these 2 roles play. We are fortunate that we are keeping both services together, which we have done really well, and that also is reflected in what Estin have seen and other outside bodies, and I think the way that that both roles feed into Nicola gives it that clarity that it is still one service. So it's really important that we get the positions right, because if we don't get education and children's services right, this could be the council could be very vulnerable. And this is the work that's been done. It's clearly articulated in the papers, the magnitudes of these roles, and it is for ensuring that we're safeguarding the future proofing of the council in these areas. So I'm happy to take any questions as the debate goes on, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh, very much for that. Are there any questions that need to be put? Well, please.
I have no question as such, but to second what Hugh Hilditch-Roberts has just said, I and another chair of scrutiny were asked to go in front of Estin lately, and both officers mentioned here are well aware of their responsibility and have done very, very well. Mae'n gwneud yn arbennig o dda yng nghystod y pandemig yma. Felly, does o ddim dadl, maen nhw'n heiddi pob cefnogaeth gennym ni a pob llwyddiant. Every luck to them in the future. Just a comment from me that I'm very, very impressed with both officers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Gwyneth, I missed you. You were first on the list. So if you'd like to come in, make any comments, please.
Well, my hand was up for a different agenda item. So I'll come in at the end of this.
You're going to come in at the end of this, or the end of the council meeting?
Yes.
Right, okay. Thank you very much. There appears to be no other comments, so we've got a recommendation here. So, Julian, would you, if there are no other comments?
Yes, happy to do that, Chair.
Please.
In accordance with the recommendation of the Senior Leadership Remuneration Panel, that full council approved the remuneration level for the Head of Education and Head of Children's Servants in accordance with the re-evaluation by the Corn Ferry Hay Group. I'd move that.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder for that? Emrys, thank you, Emrys. Nobody against? No, thank you for that. So we'll move on to agenda item 14. And this is the on pages 155 to 186, to consider a report by the Head of Legal, HR and Democratic Services, copy attached to inform members of the recruitment process to be undertaken to recruit a new Chief Executive. So I understand the leader is going to open up this discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
And then Gary.
Hopefully I won't be. Thank you, Chairman. Hopefully I won't be too. This has been the workshop, again, a bit of partnership. I'll ask Julian as well, Gary and Catherine are here just to answer questions if need be. And I'll focus my introduction on the recommendations, if that's okay, Chair. 3.1, to recruit a chief exec. We have discussions about that, but just to show council.
Hugh, you're breaking up a little bit. Would it be helpful to turn your camera off?
Okay, I've shown all morning, Chair. I'll camera off and see what happens. Yes, so just to assure council that the interim measures are working well with Nicola and Graham. Communication is effective with SLT and all members, and there is a good dialogue, focused on the important issues, which is important for us, and nothing's been missed. That said,
I think we've lost the leader at the moment. Can you hear us, leader?
Can you hear me, Chairman?
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me? I was going straight to Gary. The connection's been poor all morning.
Oh, right.
I suggest you go straight to Gary, Chairman, save a bit of time.
Okay, thank you, Leader.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, the reason for this report, members will be aware we did have a workshop in respect of this. The role of Chief Executive has been vacant since the 7th of April of this year. The position of Chief Executive holds various statutory responsibilities, one being the Head of Paid Service required by the Local Government and Housing Act 1989, and is also appointed to the roles of Returning Officer and Electoral Registration Officer. So the report is being brought to Council today to seek authority to begin the recruitment process, and there's a number of things that we need Council to approve. The legal position is that in accordance with the Standing Orders Wales Amendment Regs 2014 and also the provisions of our Constitution which replicate those, then any post with a salary of more than £100,000, which is for a duration of more than 12 months, has to be advertised externally. And we need Council approval to do that. So the first thing that we're doing is we're asking Council to authorise us to begin the recruitment process. The second thing we need is for Council to approve the level of remuneration for the post, and you'll see set out at 4.2 the remuneration package currently available to the Chief Executive. This was last reviewed a few years ago before the recruitment of the former Chief Executive. The Senior Remuneration Panel, chaired by Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill, have met to consider that remuneration package, and they have confirmed that they would recommend that the remuneration package should stay the same as part of this recruitment. So again, we'd be asking for Council to approve that package. The next thing that we need to do is to ask for Council's approval of the recruitment pack, which you will see appended to your report, and Catherine will be able to take you through that or answer any questions that members may have. And also we'll be asking for Council to agree the recruitment process, and perhaps I could hand over to Catherine, who can just give members a little bit more detail about the process that's being proposed.
Yep. Thank you, Gary. Catherine, if you could carry on.
Yes.
Thank you.
So as set out in the paper, well, and as discussed at the workshop, we have made some changes to the recruitment process. Starting, I suppose, with how we would manage the process. Previously, we have used consultants to undertake all or part of the process. However, we feel with some changes that we can actually manage that internally with the assistance of the comms and marketing team. So that's one changes that we've made. In terms of the process itself, we are proposing here that we would have a bespoke application form that would actually ask some competency-based questions as part of the form, which will then assist us in terms of being able to shortlist and have some real examples of what the candidates have undertaken in their current roles to help us with that. We're also changing the reference process. At the moment, we only ask for 2 referees, one of which needs to be a current employer. What we're proposing here is that we would ask for 3 referees, all of which, well, it'd be the current employer plus 2 previous employers, and that as part of that process, there would be an expectation that the leader and the head of legal and democratic services would actually have a verbal discussion with their current employer for approximately 30 minutes, so that they can have a verbal discussion regarding the successful candidate. A couple of other changes, we're going to introduce a long listing exercise where basically we will be asking all candidates to present a report on a preset question as part of their application. The purpose of this is that once we've shortlisted against the essential criteria, in order to get the numbers then down to say 4 to 6 candidates that we take forward for an interview, we would use the long listing exercise to do that. And then, as we currently do, there would be a supporting statements from the candidates, but we will limit the statement to 1,500 words. So a more concise statement compared to some that we've had in the past. So they're the changes that we're proposing in terms of the application form. As I mentioned there, we have introduced the long listing exercise to help us with our shortlisting for interview. We're also proposing that we will carry out research on a candidate's online presence, such as social media, their current employers' websites, webcasts, etc. But this will be done in a very controlled manner by HR and a report presented to special appointments panel to consider. We're going to keep the assessments that we've always done around the OPQs, leadership judgment, etc., because they do present a good picture, overall picture of a candidate. And then moving on to the assessment centre, we will be holding or proposing to hold an assessment centre as we've done previously. However, we have looked at all the assessments and as discussed with you in the workshop, we are proposing some more challenging assessments, which are based on more real life scenarios. Without going into the detail of those at this stage, the assessments will be undertaken or assessed by a number of different groups of members, staff, etc. And as I say, the intention here is to provide more real life assessments rather than some of the pre-planned ones that we've done previously. Obviously, the decision is a full council decision. And what we're intending here is that the successful candidates will be expected to do a 15-minute presentation to full council based on themselves. So an introduction into them as a person, their background and their motivation for applying for the role. And then there will be a 30-minute discussion with each candidate and members at full council. The timeline for this is that we would aim to start the process the beginning of June, with a view to concluding all interviews, assessments, etc. by the 22nd of July or thereabouts. The dates do need to be finalised, but that's what we'd be aiming for. The other thing I was asked to consider was how we manage performance going forward with the new chief exec. And what I'm proposing there in the report is that we would have a politically balanced panel of 5 members, and they would then be responsible for monitoring the new person's performance through their probationary period, so for the first 6 months, and then thereafter for the next 2 years, that they would monitor it at 12 months, 18 months and 24 months. Key to this whole process is the leader undertaking his monthly one-to-ones and feeding back that information into both the probationary period process and the performance appraisals. So I'll leave it there. Obviously, there's a lot more detail that you've had in the workshop and in the appendices of the report as well. And I'm happy to take any questions on any aspect of that.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Before I ask for questions, Hugh, do you want to come back in, or are you happy to, you want to add anything to?
No, thank you, Chair. I'm okay. The signal's not good. I best be quiet. My moment of fame has passed by, Chair.
Thank you. So, right, okay, thank you. Right, any comments from members, please? Merrick.
Os gaeth, diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd. Faswn i'n hoffi gweld rhif 3.1 i 4 ar wahân. Bod ni'n pleidleisio 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 a 3.4 ar wahân, os gawn ni. Angen eilydd, wrth gwrs.
Okay, do we have a... Shall I bring Gary in first of all? Are you happy?
If there's a seconder for that.
Is there a seconder for that?
Yes, I'll second. Na eilio.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Everybody happy with that? Yep. Okay. Martin, you've got your hand up, and Gwyneth, you've got your hand up. So do you want to go first, Gwyneth?
Ie, diolch. Gary Catrin sôn am y tîm comms and marketing. Medrwch chi ddeud wrthai pwy sydd ar y tîm a gyda Gareth Watson yn dal yn rhan o'r tîm?
The comms and marketing team is the council's in-house marketing team, and I'm not sure we really refer to individuals, but Gareth's on secondment working for the organisation at the moment, so we have an in-house team that would be able to work on that for us.
Yeah, happy with that, Gwyneth?
Not particularly, but I accept it.
Okay, Martin Holland, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, who's setting the objectives for the Chief Executive? My apologies, Catrin went through the process and said there would be a committee of 5, politically balanced, etc. But who's setting the objectives? Because the key to all of this is very clear objectives for the new Chief Executive. And when I was involved in the process, when Mohammed was the chief exec, we also had a facilitator from outside who came from, you know, that sort of executive background, and he actually helped to set those objectives, and they were very clear, and the process was very clear. I'm not sure what happened, obviously, on Judith's side, but I know we didn't have a facilitator. And it's important that we get this new chief executive off on the right foot.
Thank you, Martin. I've got 2 more speakers. Bobby Feely, please, and then Emrys Wynn.
Just a comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank Catrin for the report, and I would just like to say that I endorse the programme, and I'm very pleased that we are asking our own excellent recruitment team, led by Catrin, to do this appointment. I just wanted to make the comment.
Thank you for that. Emrys, please.
Diolch yn fawr. Mewn gwirionedd, mae'r hyn mas ni'n dymuno i ddweud wedi cael ei ddeud eisoes gyda'i yn y briffio'r wsos diwetha. A dwi'n gobeithio bod y sylwadau wnaed adeg hynny yn cael ei cynnwys yn yr broses yma. Ond dim ond i grynhoi yn sydyn. Gofyn am gadarnhad ydw i, o'n i fel bethau nes i dynnu sylw ato wrth dweutha. Mi fyddwn ni yn mynd ati i geisio prifweithredwr bydd â gallu i fedru arwain fel prifweithredwr effeithiol yn sefyllfa gymdeithasol rydyn ni hynny yng Nghymru ar hyn o bryd. Ac gyda'r gobaith y bydd y prifweithredwr hwnnw neu honno yn llwyddiannus wrth ymdrin â materion Cymraeg a Chymreig, naill ai drwy hyfforddiant neu drwy ffaith bod yr gallu yno eisoes hefyd, enghraifft o ran ymwybyddiaeth o'r iaith Gymraeg a'i defnydd. Mae hynny un pwynt. Hefyd, dwi'n meddwl, ynghylch geisio targedu y gynulleidfa y dymunau ni i weld yn ymgeisio am y swydd bod ni yn hysbysebu yn genedlaethol o fewn Cymru. Mae'n sôn am national newspapers yn y droddiad yma. Newn ni ychwanegu periodicals, os mi sonio ni'n benodol am cylchgrawn golwg fel modd o gyrraedd yr gynulleidfa Gymreig a Chymraeg yng Nghymru yn genedlaethol, fel un o'r papurau hynny. A dwi'n meddwl bod y cynghorydd Mary Davies yn cyfeirio at y Cymro hefyd. A wedyn, dwi'n torri fyny? Dych chi'n iawn? Sio fi gario ymlaen, neu dwi'n clywed?
Everything's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, na fo. Ac yn ola, os oes yna unrhyw becyn yn cael ei wanwan allan gyda'r llyfryn yma, bod ni yn dangos i'r ymgeiswyr bod modd teithio i'r Rhuthun gan yma swyn i sydd ddim o bob pwynt cwmpawd ac eithrio o'r gogledd wrach mae'n ormod o fôr yma os yw'n sybiau. Ond o'r gorllewin, o'r de ac o'r dwyrain, a nid yn bod ni'n canolbwyntio i un cyfeiriad sydd yn dueddol o fod efo'r A55 yn nhw'n bwydo ni hefyd. Dyna syniadau gen i a gofyn, os gwelwch yn dda, gadw mewn golwg cof yr hyn a drafodwyd wythnos dwytha yn y briffio hefyd. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Emrys. Catherine, do you want to respond to that, please?
Okay, so in terms of the first question around who would set the objectives, that would be the responsibility of the performance appraisal panel. So it would be the political balance group that would do that. The changes that were suggested as part of the workshop last week, we have taken them into account. So Golwg will be one of the publications that we would be looking at advertising in for Wales. We will also look at some of the more local newspapers as well. I think there was another Welsh publication, which unfortunately I can't remember the name of it, that would be proposed. So that will also be part of the package.
Cymro, bosib.
I think there was another one which we've used recently as well. So but definitely they will form part of that package in terms of where we advertise. There were some other changes suggested around the pack, around making sure that, you know, as you said, around distance, that you could travel from Holyhead in the same way as you could do from Manchester and whatever. So we have incorporated that into the recruitment pack. I think that was all the questions. I don't think I've missed anything there, have I?
Na, dwi'n meddwl, ond dwi'n hefyd yn cynogio hyn ydodd cynghorydd Bob Ffili, bod ni falch bod ni yn gweithredu hwn heb fynd allan i gynghorwyr allanol, a bod ni'n gobeithio llwyddo wneud hyn fel awdurdod lleol yn hynny.
Okay, diolch.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, no more questions. I'll just ask Gary then to we've had a proposer and seconder for 3.1.
No, I think, Chair, I think the point I was raising was that Councillor Mary Cloyd Davis proposed that members take the vote on each of the recommendations individually, and that was seconded by Councillor Kensler. I think you need to ascertain whether that's the will of the meeting. So you need to know whether or not there's anybody against that, whether we need to go to vote on that, or whether members are for that.
Okay, thank you. You've heard that. Are there any comments that people want to make, or are you happy to go on the collective vote?
I think for clarity, Councillor Mary Lloyd Davis was proposing a separate vote on each of the recommendations. That was seconded by Councillor Kensler. You just need to know whether there is anybody against that in the first instance.
Is there anybody against?
Yeah, could have come in, Chair.
You can.
Could I ask the reasoning why to split it like that? What's the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, do you want to bring that?
A croeso, parchu'r gadeirydd. Os dwi eisiau pleidleisio nerbyn unrhyw gymal o 1 i 4, dwi'n cael gwneud. Fel arall, dwi'n gafo pleidleisio rhywbeth wrach dydw i ddim yn cydweld.
So that's the reason for the request. You just need to know whether councillors are happy to accede to that request or not, and if they are, we can do it one way, and if they're not, we do it the other way.
Okay, which way do you want to play it? Do you want to go individually then, councillors, or do you want to reject that proposal and just vote?
Chair, just to go across you, Jones had a finger up for ages and nobody's taken any notice.
Okay, I consider my legs to have been slapped. So I'll take Councillor Butterfield next, please.
Thank you. We've had a workshop on this. It's been to into the leaders' meetings. We all seem comfortable with the format. I would prefer to vote on block, but if there is a vote to split this particular issue off, then I suggest that we go on block, except this one item, and put that one item separately to the others. Otherwise, I would prefer to just vote on block.
I'm happy to support Jones going on block.
I am too.
I think, Chair, given the fact there seems to be a division, you probably need to take a vote on that. Are we able to run a poll on that? So we'll run a poll on that, and if you are in favour of splitting the recommendations, vote for. If you're against splitting the recommendations and you want to vote on block, vote against. And if you abstain, please abstain. And the Zoom poll has been opened now.
Has everybody been able to vote, or are there still some people who need to verbally indicate their decision?
I haven't been able to, Chair.
Can we ask which way then, please?
For.
Okay. Anybody? And is there anybody else? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. The results of the poll were for 8 votes, against 18 votes, abstain 1 vote.
In that case, Chair, then if someone's willing to propose the recommendations and second them, then we'll be able to take the vote on block in respect to those.
I'd move, Chair.
I'm happy to,
Okay.
I think
I'm happy to propose or second.
I think Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill was the first person to say they propose. I heard Councillor Bobby Feely saying she proposed all seconds, so I take it.
Yeah,
seconding.
we're happy to take those two. That'd be good. Thank you very much. Okay.
In the circumstances, Chair, it's been proposed and seconded. I think you just ask if there's anybody against.
Is there anybody against the recommendations of 3.1 to 3.4?
Matto, Mr. Cadeirydd.
Okay. Okay, so that's yeah. Any abstentions? Yeah, Eric. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we're quite content now to move on, and we'll go to the final agenda item, which is agenda item 15. It's Council Forward Work Programme, Council Briefing Forward Work Programme. Gary Williams is going to present that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just notifying the officers who left that they can come back. Yes, the Forward Work Programme, chairs, are set out in the papers. The next meeting of Council is on the 6th of July, and currently we have on there the annual performance review and the committee timetable for 2022. As you know, we always try and have at least 1 year in advance, so that report will be coming in July.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any other comments? Gwyneth, you wanted to come back at the end of the proceedings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and congratulations to everyone. I'm not sure but I feel this is the first council meeting that Alan Hughes is attending as a new councillor, and I don't know if we have given him a welcome.
No, it's my second one.
Diolch, Alan. Councillor Kensler, it's not Councillor Alan Hughes' first, and the previous chair did welcome him and congratulate him on his election.
And do we realise that he is a nephew of Councillor Neville Hughes?
Diolch, Gwyneth.
But he can't sing like him.
No.
I was just going to say, can he sing like him?
No, only in the bath.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, I think that concludes our council meeting, and thanks to everybody for that. It's good to see you all. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in the very near future.
Bye.
Congratulations.
Bye all.
Diolch. Diolch.
Bye.